In this video, I'm going to be setting up my Futaba GYD 550 gyro in my rear-wheel drive drift car with the Radiolink RC8X. I'm going to test it in two different ways. I'm going to set it up in kind of what I call the normal mode, which is just plugging it in and controlling the gain through the radio. This receiver also claims SBUS capability though, so I'm going to plug it in and set it up with the SBUS and see if it will even connect to the Futaba gyro with the SBUS. Let's start with the install of this receiver into the car, getting the wires hooked up, and let's see how it works. How I now have this set up is I have the main gyro servo function going into channel 1. Channel 2 is still the ESC, and then the gain function is actually all the way back here on channel 8.
Welcome to Radiolink.
In the controller, you're going to come here to settings. You're going to go down here to the mix settings and the gyro mix. Gyro mix needs to be on, I believe. It's going to say gyro mix is channel 8. And then what we're going to do is we're going to, from the factory, it's set at gyro built-in because the receiver has a built-in gyro. We're going to put it as to gain 1 channel. Now with that, you can actually change the gain right here on the controller, and I'll notice that it actually says gain 1 AVCS positive. And if I come down here and I go negative, it actually says normal. So that is interesting to see. Now what we need to do is fire the car up and see if the gyro actually is getting signal through it. Now one thing of careful note here, the receiver has a red light on the receiver. That means the built-in gyro is actually active in it. So we need to come in here, we need that to be green, so we're going to press this 3 times. And it's going to flash and now be green. That means the built-in gyro is actually off. We see it power on, the Futaba gyro is blinking, and it does initialize. That is good to see. Now I still have steering, that's also good to see. Now let's see if the gyro is actually active. I have nothing, but that's also because over here, I actually still have the gain set at 0. So now let's crank the gain up. There's 70, and oh, the gain is now, we now have steering, okay. Let's see if I use that and I steer and I come back. It is AVCS. It is actually slow mode. Now let's come negative. Light turns green on the gyro. So it does see the other endpoints. Steering is still there. It still looks a little slow, but look at that. Awesome, we have gyro function. As I was getting ready to test it, I noticed something interesting here. My endpoints here for the steering servo were all the way down at 55%, and you notice how slow the front wheels are to turn there? They don't snap out. I like the slow return from AVCS, but yeah, as I do this, it's just not, it's really sluggish in how it drives. And then I remembered that sometimes the Futaba gyros don't like this. So if I come in here and reset both of these to 100, then it works as I would expect it to work. It turns out and then it slowly turns back when it's on the AVCS mode. That's pretty normal. So this is one thing you got to be really careful with. Sometimes the gyros don't like it when you've adjusted the endpoints on the controller itself. And this Futaba is one of those. What that means is that if you're sitting here doing this, you might strip your servo horn, or you might burn out your servo if it really does need a lot less throw than what the 100 is. So that's one thing you always need to be careful with. But yeah, this looks much better now. So I have the gyro gain set on about plus 70. Let's take it for a drive. So the first drive did absolutely great. Now let's see if we can figure out how to set it up in SBUS mode and if it actually works or not. It says all I should have to do, if I'm in the normal mode, all I should have to do is short press the button once. And I've flashed and I'm now blue. Blue is supposedly SBUS mode. Once you've done that now, this 8th channel is supposed to be an SBUS channel. Let's dive into the controller and see what happens. First thing I notice now is that if I adjust the gyro gain over here, it does not influence the gyro. The gyro is on and being controlled. Even if I put the gyro gain down to 0, the gyro still works. I can't get it to go into normal versus AVCS mode, so clearly we've done something, but now we've got to figure out where in the controller we actually control the SBUS. After a whole bunch of testing here, I have not been able to get the SBUS to connect into this gyro at all. I went through the whole manual online, I went through every setting in here, and it just will not work. When you have it set up with SBUS, and you have the gyro plugged into the SBUS, it still works, it's just not seeing a signal. The gyro gain here doesn't work. It's just working as if it's not even plugged into a gain at all. And it's just sitting there at some kind of gain. So SBUS seems like it doesn't work. Now, one of the last things I want to try here as far as settings go, I want to come in here under the racing menu to the throttle curve. So this is something I always like to change on my controllers. You see, as of right now, I have the car off so I can actually hit it. If you can see there, as I hit the throttle, a red line comes across and shows. So for every little bit that I push the throttle, that same amount is given back to the car as the throttle signal. I actually like, if we come in here to the exponential rate, we start making it negative. I like to make it negative curved down like this. And that what that does is that helps smooth out the throttle mid drift so that your car is actually more stable. But here's something cool that Radio Master does. If I come back, I'm going to reset it back to straight. Instead of exponential, you can do a multi-point here. So multi-point means each one of these points along this graph, you can actually change it to what you want it to be. So 0, 0, that has to be there. But 10, instead of 10 over being also 10 up, I can come in and I can flatten that one out to about half. 20 will take it down to about half. 30 will take it down to about half. You can see this curve is changing as I do it. Now obviously I don't want this big jump up right here. That's going to be bad if I do a big jump up. So some point in here I'm going to have to start smoothing this curve out. And then you can see here I have a much smoother curve. I'm going to come in here and I'm going to fine tune it a little bit. But here what I've done is in this lower bit I've really numbed out the throttle, but then I can still get to full throttle way up here whenever I want to. So let me smooth this out and I'll show you kind of what I get to. So what I've done here now, you can see, is I've smoothed that curve out a whole lot more. I may actually come in here and take it down some more. Let me be clear though, there's no right answer for what this should be. Don't go just taking my numbers off this screen and plugging it in. Maybe it's a good starting point for you, but this is where I'm starting. I'm going to now drive the car and keep messing with these, and I'm going to tweak in my throttle curve here for exactly how I want it. Now, the last consideration that we have here is R8FG versus RF4GM. You follow the channel, you know I'm a huge fan of making my drift car as light as absolutely possible, and I'm just guessing. Yeah, there's a difference between these two things, and this R8FG is really fancy. It has the two super long antennas on it. It has, in theory, the SBUS capability. It has the gyro built in. It's got 8 channels. Like, it could be really, really good for a lot of different applications. Truth is, I don't need all that. I don't need all those channels. I don't need all this antenna. Maybe the R4FGM here is actually more what I need. So what I'm going to try now is actually plugging all of this stuff over here, binding to this one, and seeing if it actually performs any different. I'm going to do all of this off camera, and then I'm going to jump back on and let you know any issues I've had or watch outs along the way. What I find really interesting, I don't know how Radiolink does this, I didn't change anything in the radio, and it already reconnected. I didn't select a different model, I didn't anything, but it just automatically reconnected. I have steering, I have throttle. Now, gyro works, but it's not seeing gyro gain. I do need to come in here and reset that. And all I had to do in order to do that was come in here under gyro mixing and just change it from channel 8 to channel 4. And then my gyro gain that was already on this switch stays on that switch. And it controls the gyro. I don't know if you can see that, but I can make it go from red to off to green. So it works just like that. And now this whole setup is running off this super lightweight itty bitty little receiver that I still need to adhere down in here instead of that big one. That's my setup of this Radiolink RC8X. Honestly, really nice controller right in there, honestly, with some of the Futaba stuff, some of the Noble FlySky price point, features, everything. It's really quite nice. So if you're interested in buying this, I'll have a link to it down in the video description. It's an affiliate link. You buy it for the same price. It helps the channel out a little bit. So thank you if you do buy it from there. If you're curious about any other controllers or other stuff with RC drifting, there's going to be a Drift Tech playlist. It's going to pop up to your right here. Go over there, check it out. You'll see how to set up other controllers and other features of the cars. Thank you, and we'll see you in one of those videos. Goodbye.